I was back in the middle of my senior year, enjoying the warmth of a sunny afternoon. The world around me felt full of life and color. I was enjoying the thrill of freedom as I drove my small, fast car after being free from the restrictions of the school day. It's interesting how life can change so quickly, isn't it? Not even a mile and a half before the accident, I started to feel uneasy. It was like a sharp, forceful feeling was echoing through my whole body. I thought, maybe I should pull over, but the thought didn't last long. My hands were so stiff on the driving wheel that it felt like I was in another world. It felt like an unknown force was pushing me to keep going, even though I was feeling uneasy. The strange discomfort didn't go away, like a silent warning I couldn't quite turn off. My next background was a familiar part of Highway 101 with wide views of the Oregon coast. That's when bad things happened. The driver of a huge truck lost control and crossed into my lane, hitting my car in an instant. The crash happened in a short second, but it seemed like it went on forever. That tense moment had an effect that was like hitting a brick wall, constant, harsh, and all-consuming. As the world went crazy, I felt like I was falling into a strange trance. Blood was pouring out of my forehead, a horrible reflection of how bad things were for me. When my hand naturally went to my head, I felt the undeniable truth. Death was no longer a vague idea. It was right there with me. In the middle of all the chaos, I felt like someone was gently but deeply touching my shoulder. Even though I couldn't see clearly, I felt like I was being watched by a spiritual being, maybe an angel. It felt like this person was talking to me right down to my heart. "Hey, Rich," a voice said clearly and soothingly. "We've got you. Everything will be okay." These words were meant to comfort me and fit the way my mind was feeling at the time. "Rich, don't be scared." They said, "We're here, and you've been down this path before," which made me feel calm in a way I hadn't expected. At that very important moment, a deep realization came over me. It was a full and complete defeat. Worries faded away like mist in the sun and were replaced by a deep knowing that everything was going exactly as it should. I went in and out of consciousness, and each time I woke up, I saw flashes of what was going on around me. When the police officer got there, they quickly pulled me out of the ruins and put me on the ground. As I was being taken to the hospital, the edges of my awareness were getting fuzzy, so I barely noticed how important it was. The memories of those times were broken up, like sand sliding through your fingers. In the clean emergency room, my blood loss became very serious, and without the modern medical help we have today, my case got even worse. I remember the doctor's somber words, "He's not going to make it." And with that, I slipped from the world of awareness into a higher realm of whiteness that was nothing but pure. There was no tunnel and no recognized faces from my past. There was only a bright light that covered everything. There was more than just light. There was an overwhelming force of love, stronger than any love or bond that had come before. The love that surrounded me was endless, like an ocean of joy that could not be measured in any way on earth. It was a love so deep that it surpassed all other tender moments, leaving me in awe of its endless and bright embrace. It felt like I had joined forces with the very soul of love. It kept coming and going, engulfing me in a high that was unlike anything I had ever felt. In that bright, never-ending whiteness, I wasn't just seeing this deep love. I was in it. This realization hit me like a ton of bricks. This is who we really are. This limitless, bright love is what we are made of. It's okay if I say the same thing twice. The experience was so amazing, it's hard to put it into words. It felt like the light could burn my eyes because it was so bright. But as I looked, I saw that the light wasn't making me blind. Instead, it passed through me and became part of me without any trouble. It was a part of me, but also separate from me. It was an important part of my life that I couldn't fully understand, but could feel deeply. I stayed in this state for what seemed like forever, lost in the endless field of light. I then started to hear voices coming from the nothingness. They were soft and hard to make out, but they were definitely there. From this ocean of light came shapes that I later thought were angels. They didn't say who they were, but it was clear they were there. They, too, shone with a brightness that was a little different from the light around them. It was an airy white with a hint of gold, almost a white gold shimmer that went around their shoulders and heads. These images talked to me in a way that felt both familiar and out of this world. They talked with their lips still, and their faces were a little fuzzy, not quite clear but still recognizable. Even though I could make out their shapes, their heads, eyes, and shoulders, their exact features were still fuzzy. Angels told them, "We want you to pay attention to something." The next thing that happened was a wide view of my life, like watching a movie reel of my whole life, from the moment I took my first breath to the seconds before I died. In this world, time stopped, and I could see every part of my life play out in front of me. "Well, what do you think?" they asked after the review. The tone of my answer was thoughtful. What do I think? It was good. It was interesting. I did many good things and some bad things. I like people. Their answer was kind and encouraging. We don't care about the little things in your life. What counts is how you judge things. There was no judgment, just a place to think about yourself. It made me feel better to know that the attention was on my own understanding and point of view, not on what other people thought. I stayed in this state for a while, but then a thought came to me and broke through the deep peace I felt. My family and friends would worry about me. I tried to move my attention to Earth in the hopes of seeing it. I desperately looked across the endless whiteness for any sign of my world, but the Earth was always out of reach, hidden in the endless stretch of bright light, no matter how hard I looked. Over time, something started to form out of the huge spread of light, but it wasn't the usual darkness of night. Instead, there was a thick, shadowy fog that blocked the view of the Earth. It looked like the planet was hidden by a different layer of density or an airy mist because it was dim and hard to see. I looked at this spectral picture of Earth with great attention as I tried to figure out, so that's what they meant by Earth? Even after this realization, I didn't try to get closer to the world or find my family. Instead, the thought of their stress made me feel sad. The beautiful world I was in was unknown to them. It was such an overwhelmingly beautiful place that it seemed a shame they couldn't share in its glory. It was impossible to describe the love that filled this room. It was so strong and deep that I felt like every loving being here was an extension of myself, and they were an extension of me. The feeling of being apart went away, leaving only one thing. In this case, love wasn't just an idea. It was a complete fact. Being in awe of this divine place made me want to stay, so I told the beings around me. The white light was beautiful, and it made me feel like I belonged there in a way that was deeper than anything I could understand on Earth. It was just beautiful. But their answer was both soft and firm. "No, you need to get a lot done before you can stay here. Your time isn't over yet." They gave me a deep sense of comfort by saying, "We know exactly when you will come back. Time doesn't exist in this world, and you're already past it. You still have a lot of work to do, though." The link broke off at that moment, and I was back in the world of the living. It was a rough shift. The next thing I knew, I was still awake but in the hospital, with bandages on my head and the effects of the accident still very clear. The accident was very bad. My skull was hurt, which was a stark reflection of what I had been through. As I lay there confused and sick, going back to my old life didn't feel very exciting. However, it made me feel better to know that my family would know I was safe. Things quickly got back to normal, and I was given new duties in the fishing and boat business. This was the start of my journey on Earth again.